And we are back. Now, we've been talking about man's free will and whether or not God will override man's free will. In other words, are there things that we just don't have any choice about? I think we're going to find man has been given all kinds of choices, and in most of those places, he took the wrong choice, and God let him. Well, let's go to Genesis chapter 9 while we were still in Genesis, looking at Adam and Eve and how things went off the tracks there in the garden. I want to look at Genesis 9, verse 1. Now, this is right after the flood. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Of course, the earth is a big place, and they would have had to spread out to do that. They would have had to have a few generations of growth, and then they'd need to kind of spread out. But let's look at 11, and we'll see a few generations down the road here. And we'll see that all the people are still clumped together in a city. Genesis 11:1, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Now, by whole earth, I understand that he means the population, the human population of the earth. Verse 2, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city, and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. See, they wanted to resist what was told them. They didn't want to replenish the earth. They wanted us to all stay together and be united in mind and purpose. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they've imagined to do. Now think of that. If they can imagine it, they can do it. And this is in the council of the Godhead here. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. And we see in this case, they've already chosen not to follow God's will, but it's beginning to cut into his plan of redemption. And so it's almost like he's forced to intervene to a certain point. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So they clearly were not going to obey God's will without a little shove there. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Just want to look at an example here. 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And this is that long discussion that Paul had about the gifts of the Spirit as he's writing to the Corinthian church. 14 and verse 21. And he has been talking about tongues now for some time. Verse 19, for instance, he says, yet in the church. Well, look at 18. I thank my God that I speak with tongues more than ye all, yet in the church I'd rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. Brethren, be not children in understanding, howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men. And then he looks back at another time that tongues came into play. He's not too specific, but I think I can show where he was. Verse 21, in the law it is written, with men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto this people, and yet for all that will not they hear me, saith the Lord. Wherefore tongues are for a sign, not to them that believe, but to them that believe not. But prophesying serveth not for them that believe not, but for them which believe. So I think the best fit for this reference is going to be found in Exodus chapter 20. And this is when the people have arrived at Sinai. They've had their exodus, they've crossed the Red Sea, and they have arrived at Sinai, and they're all camped. And the Lord has met with Moses and told them in verse, in verse 21 of chapter 19, and the Lord said unto Moses, go down and charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And let's see, skipping down here to verse 24. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron, and Aaron with thee, but let not the priests and the people break through to come unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them. So they had 3 days to prepare. They were told to get cleaned up and get ready. And let's see, that was on the 3rd day. Yeah. Here's what he told the people to prepare. And verse 10, the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the 3rd day. For the 3rd day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. So the 3rd day, let's see, verse 16 of chapter 19, it came to pass on the 3rd day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. Okay, verse 20. This is when God starts to speak to the people. And opens up, verse 1, and God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And if you read down through here, you'll see that he's reciting to them the Ten Commandments. And then you come down here to verse 18. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. That's putting it lightly. They probably stampeded. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak to us, lest we die. Didn't Paul say in the law it was written that the Lord wanted to speak to them, and they refused to hear? I think this is a pretty good candidate. But then somebody might say, well, wait a minute though. What was all that about stammering lips and other tongues? I think I have the answer to that too. Let's go to the book of Psalms. There was a man who was like the master of the music in David's tabernacle, and his name was Asaph, and he composed about a dozen of the Psalms. And in a lot of these Psalms, he made references to the history of the nation. And in Psalm 81, he gives a little thumbnail sketch of the Exodus and the meeting at Sinai. And I see we're running along again. I will see you in part 3, but for now, I'll just say, may the Lord bless this reading of His Holy Scripture. And we will get right on that Psalm 81 in part 3.